There are over 3 million of ATMs around the world. Just imagine that attackers can get only €1 from each ATM per hour. They can earn up to 70 millions per day. If anyone have the same salary, I think no. So, hello, thank you for coming. We are from Kaspersky Lab, from Russia. I am Kocheta Olga, here is Alexey Osipov. We provide, as part of Kaspersky Lab, we provide security assessment of ATM and POSes and other devices and the penetration testing. We have particular interest in everything that has any connection with cards and cash. But we are whiteheads. We don't have any islands, any housekeepers, and even cars. So let's start with a little overview. Let me give you several words about ATMs in general, just for your understanding. ATMs like a Lego for adults or for big vendors. They just take hardware units produced by various manufacturers and put it together into the box and called it ATM. The top box of ATM named service zone or cabinet. There are PC, there are various hardware units such as card reader, pin pad, and so on. And vendors think that service zone is not important, not for money, and produce it from plastic with simple single lock. Very simple, and even the same for various banks. Safe is for money. There are steel and concrete sandwich with 2 types of locks. There consist dispenser with 4 cash cassettes and 1 cassette for rejected notes. And in some models, in the safe contains cash-in module. Typical dispenser consists of up to 3,000 banknotes in each cassette. And imagine that attacker can get over 10 million euros per one attack per one ATM. All hardware units connected to PC through serial or USB ports. And in some old models, it could be SDC bus. What about software? There are hosts with Microsoft Windows as operating system. There are main ATM software which provides graphic user interface to interaction with customers or with service engineers. And the other parts of this software control the hardware units, control the devices. There are also some antiviruses or integrity control systems. Bank could use some other software, and some of them provide unlimited access to attacker. Devices are unclear. There are some strange microcontrollers with real-time operating system, and the guys who love IDE Pro are very sad about it. But how it really works? It's the main application, main ATM application connected to hardware units through the XFS manager. It's based on XFS standard, which means Extension for Financial Services. This standard was developed by Microsoft in 1991 and provide access to hardware units in the of their manufacturers. Main ATM application just sent comments to hardware units through the XFS manager and through the service providers. And hardware units send their responses the same ways, but backwards. Yes, Windows XP is still alive, despite the fact that Microsoft stopped to support this operating system a couple years ago. Many banks don't upgrade their computers.
But that was about the device itself, but all the ATMs are interconnected with the processing center, so let's speak about the network. In general, ATMs shouldn't decide to dispense money on their behalf only from the commons with the processing center. Here's the sample network of ATMs that are connected to the VPN server or via firewall, and they all connected to the processing center. The connections may be different, wired, wireless, whatever. Wired connections are pretty obvious. It's a telephone line or Ethernet, the very same that you use in your office or at your home. Wireless connections, it's not Wi-Fi, it's GSM or UMTS connections. They're pretty much the same connection as used for the different SCADA systems. ATMs connects to the modem, GSM modem, and then connects to the telecom, and telecom connects it to the banking system. The only point of protection is the APN symbol that protects the address of the connection of these devices. What about attacks through GSM or GPRS modems? CDMA is broken commercially, so you can go to a website where some organization sells it to official people for about 5,000 euros, and you can intercept all the data that is transmitted. GSM is broken, but broken by enthusiasts. You can buy for 200 euros device, invest many time in it, and at last you can intercept the GSM connections. UMTS and LTE has state-of-the-art technologies to circumvent the encryption, to intercept the authentication data, and so on. So all the data that is transmitted via wireless connections actually is not protected by itself. It should be protected with the application layer or with different countermeasures. The only countermeasure that is used by the banks is the VPN clients and VPN servers. There are different types of it, software and hardware. And my favorite from the different banks, they don't use any VPNs, any secure connections, they just connect it to the internet and whatsoever will become. Software divides into two parts. It's OS internal and third party. And hardware can be outside of ATM or inside. It's the main division of these devices in general. VPN hardware has its pros. For example, it has built-in firewall. If the ATM is connected to the VPN's hardware server and server connects to the internet, you can't access the ATM directly. All the connections are terminated on the VPN server. And it works regardless of the local computer, so you can't install malware and access its device. And actually, you can grab it with your hand. But there is a problem. If something is made of metal, and if something is very small that you can grab it with your hand, you can take it away. You can install it in some decent location and connect to the banking system, banking network, and access, for example, processing center or other ATM machines. And as I already said, it doesn't protect against physical access. You can just disconnect the host machine, connect your notebook to the host computer of ATM, and do bad stuff that you want. Firewall or VPN software has its own pros. It's much cheaper. You don't have to have different service engineers who will protect you, who will install this software or hardware. It doesn't degrade with age, but many of you can see different windows on ATM machines in the internet where ATM machine says, oh, I can connect to the VPN server, so I will transmit all the data in clear text into internet. And unfortunately, when you use different VPN servers, for example, if you use it in your mobile phones or on your notebooks, there is an interesting problem. All inbound connections are not firewalled. So if you have problem in the services that are run on your machine, you are vulnerable to different attacks from the network. And some deadly sins of these connections are pretty much obvious for engineering people, but not obvious for the banking people. For example, they don't understand that software VPN doesn't protect them very much against the connections from the internet to the ATMs. Hardware VPNs are useless without physical security. And physical security is not the issue with the ATMs. Wireless connections are compromised, and no one should depend on the protection of GSM network. For example, A51 is already broken. But where to find the ATM machines? Olga?
So if attacker can want to attack some ATMs and want to get some cash, they need to find their ATMs. But where? The main tale, which we hear from the banks every year, that there are no ATMs in the internet. But if you know the secret words, and if you use the secret internet, which called Shodan, you can find thousands of ATMs online around the world. We can find the IP addresses of these ATMs, open ports, services, even vulnerable services, and in some cases we can find the physical address of such ATMs. But what attacker should do if he found some ATMs online? They just can send commands to main ATM software to dispense money instead of real processing center. For example, attackers can use processing center emulators. It's tools which developed by ATM vendors, ATM manufacturers, to check processing center settings, to check network settings on the ATMs, but attacker use it instead of real processing center to dispense money. Other case, when attacker can find the physical address of vulnerable ATMs or even not vulnerable ATMs, attacker can connect some specially crafted device, such as Raspberry Pi, with piece of software which emulate processing center, original processing center, and send commands to dispense money again. On the slide, we can see typical commands through the fake processing center, but in logs, they look like communication with original processing center. It's a very simple protocols. In the green box, we can see the main part of commands. It's amount of money that can eject from cassettes. This is 40 banknotes from bottom cassettes. So just a little demo video. Attacker can, we can see that attacker find through the wall ATMs with network equipment outside of ATM. So attacker disconnect the Ethernet cable from the network equipment and wait when ATM became offline. So ATM is offline, and attacker connects Ethernet cable to Raspberry Pi with fake processing center software. So ATM connects to the attacker's processing center, and the second attacker or friends of attackers came to ATM with any cards and enter some push some button, looks like original transaction, enter any PIN. And as we can see, there are screens which controlled by attackers. We can choose cassettes to eject money. And voila, we have money. We have money with any cards, with any pins, and with any information on the receipt.
We haven't made this video faster for your understanding because it took about 2 minutes to install the Raspberry Pi, to connect it to the ATM, and ATM became under control of the attacker. The second one came to the ATM machine and dispensed some amount of money. 2 minutes. In this time, no security people can get to the ATM. It's about 10 minutes to get for them to get in the car to drive to the ATM machine under attack, but the money will be already gone. The problem is the communication protocol that is used by ATM machines for connecting to the processing center. It's so-called direct connect protocols. Different ATM vendors have different sub-protocols based on it, but generally there are 4 main phases that are used by an attacker. It's customization data. All those screens that you see on the ATM machine are sent from the processing center. It's go in or out of service, get statuses, and of course the transaction response. As already mentioned, it's a text-based protocol where you just send amount of banknotes and the number of the cassette to dispense the money. There are different internal security mechanisms. For example, SSL TLS for encryption of the data, message authentication code that is appended to the packets to ensure integrity. But what we see in real life, we haven't seen any SSL TLS enabled ATMs. Banks only use VPN connections that create a logical network that and they assume they are protected. Message authentication code is complex. To enable it, you should enable about 20 or 25 points, like authenticate this field, authenticate that field, don't check, and so on. There are different problems with it. For example, authentication code can be added to the packet, but it won't be checked. And the real problem is that bank often don't own the ATM machine. It's service engineers who provide service for the ATMs. Processing center is another organization. And when these 3 parties communicate, it's about 1 month to enable only one security measure on the ATM machine. Of course, it's a problem, and banks always sometimes don't implement anything. There are different points in the ATM network. There are different administrators who connect to the ATM machines, different administrators of the workstations, and so on. It's a complex situation, and if you have many ATM machines, you want to control them from one place. Some vendors offer such a service, and they connect all ATM machines to a single domain, and from domain controller, administrator can issue commands on the whole ATM network. But to reduce costs, they often interconnect all ATM machines with each other. So one ATM machine sees another ATM machine, and if we can access one of them, actually we can attack all of them. And here's the small video that demonstrates, that demonstrates such an attack. Attacker sees the ATM machine that he can access. He opens it, disconnects the Ethernet cable, which is connected to the processing center, and connects it to Raspberry Pi. When security guys will come to the ATM machine will be locked, and it will be just out of service. No one nearby, but we can issue commands remotely and upload our data onto ATM machines, for example, with the skull. After that, all those ATM machines are under our control. It's not exploitation of some vulnerabilities, it's just usage of protocol. Friends of the attacker go to the ATM machines from different vendors, insert their cards, press the buttons, and get money from each one of them. Then, when we want to be discreet with our attack, we go to the very same ATM machine and connect everything back. No forensic evidence or no physical evidence are left in this ATM machine. But how to get to the inside of ATM?
Sure, sometimes attacker need to get physical access to the top box of ATMs, to the USB cable, Ethernet cable, and so on. But how to get in? Attacker can buy the key from the ATMs on the web market, and even not black market, just eBay and so on. Or in some cases, for example, with tubular lock, when attacker know the code of key, they just make it themselves or with help of locksmiths. Or they can ask some guys who have magic tools to try open the door. We already watched this video for many times, but the problem is still here. Almost all ATMs are vulnerable to lockpicking. And these guys who see ATM from this side the first time open the service zone door in 60 seconds. And it will be no alarm until the door is open. That's all. Attackers have physical access to the top box of ATMs. But sometimes attackers don't need any physical access to the top box of ATMs, because if you are looking around the world, we can find a lot of ATMs which have network equipment outside, or physically accessible Ethernet cable, or even USB cable. I don't know why. And in some cases, we can find ATMs which are not locked. So we get physical access to the ATM, to the service zone, but what we should do. The common tale, what we hear, I don't know, every month or every weeks from the banks or from security guys that the bank guys came to ATM and find it empty. No money and no locks. They try to watch some video surveillance, but they see that some guys, looks like engineer, came to ATM, open service zone, put some device like shoebox and leaves. And other guys, looks like customer, came to ATM and get all money from ATM into their backpack. It looks like a magic for banks and for security guys, but it's easy as a pie because, as I already mentioned, all hardware units connected to PC through serial or USB ports. And the attacker just disconnect dispenser from PC and connected it to a Raspberry Pi. So Raspberry Pi works instead of host, instead of PC. And the attackers send their commands to hardware units, to dispenser, or other units directly. When I speak about card reader, for example, we can intercept all data, all transmitted data in plain text. As we can see on the slide, for example, in this case, we intercept track 2 from MacStripe in plain text with USB sniffer, which we found in the internet. And attacker can use the same way to intercept all data and sell it on the black market. And in some case, we can intercept transaction history from VMV chip, and this information is enough for card not present transaction. But when we speak about black box, we think about money. Our attacker, again, came to ATM, opened the service zone. ATM became into the service mode, and attacker disconnects dispenser USB cable from the PC and connects it to Raspberry Pi. As we can see, the main ATM application lost connection with dispenser. Dispenser became offline. Attacker tried to exit from service mode, supervisor mode, but it's not possible because ATM don't have connection with dispenser, but dispenser still works. Attacker communicate with Raspberry Pi with simple hackers' smartphones, send commands to dispense money. And they got it again.
We speak about ATM security for quite a while. In previous year, we spoke at Hacking Paris conference and said for our ATM that we have at that time that there are different problems with COM USB ports. When we said that to banks, they said, oh, you use ATM machine that we haven't seen in the world. And maybe it has problems, but big vendors doesn't have them. What you can see from our videos, it's not the case. Big vendors has their own problems, has their own issues. Often they are targeted to the banks themselves, so dispensing money and so on. But often they just sniffing the track to data, and even if you don't see the skimmer on the outside of the ATM, it may be on the inside, and you won't get any knowledge that your card data being compromised. Problem is the trust zone. When we speak about financial applications, it is safe to understand that you shouldn't trust anyone except the points that are authenticated, that are encrypting all the data that are being transmitted, and the data is integrity controlled. Unfortunately, ATM vendors have different approach. There is too broad trust zone. ATMs see other ATMs in the network. USB communications were considered secure and uninterceptable, but with the hardware skimmers, hardware sniffers, or software sniffers like Wireshark or USB pickup on the Windows, you can intercept all the data and sell it on the black market. Same goes for the wireless connections. Wireless connections are still considered very secure, and no one can't intercept it. Encryption, unfortunately, increases costs, and banks don't want to invest any money to protect the data. And message authentication code doesn't provide secrecy. So if you transmit the data without encryption, you're selling your customers' data to the bad guys. But when the problem appears, ATM vendors look like this kitchen. They're trying to protect everything from everyone, but they don't have any opportunity and don't have very much knowledge against such a problem. What do we propose to banks? Enable, finally, all the security measures that are already there. They are made not for taking money from you, from the vendors, but for protecting you and the customers. Some problems can be fixed with only configuration measures, and banks should force vendors to fix vulnerabilities. Same goes for the customers. There are many compromises from USB sniffers, for example, but banks refuse to take an action and to protect their customers. PCI DSS, unfortunately, doesn't guarantee security. It created for different purposes, not always connected to the problems of the ATMs themselves. And remember, proactive analysis is much cheaper than forensics. If you want forensics, you already have a problem and you already lost some money. Remember, bad guys are watching every time, and if you don't address your issues, you will be compromised. Or have plan B and sell all your ATMs, disable them in case of emergency. We'd like to thank all the guys that helped us with our research, with reverse engineering, with creating of our proof of concepts. Thank them. And if you have some questions, please ask. Have fun, stay safe.
Thank you for the talk. That looks scarily easy, but I have a small question. Assuming that I want to be rich and I have some skills in lock picking, so that's basically easy. So the code you put in the Raspberry, is the application available? The code have been put somewhere, or do we need to reverse engineer the whole thing?
You shouldn't reverse engineer. There is different standards that are easily accessible on the internet. But we won't provide the very exact search strings, but actually you can find them.
And that's all we need. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Hello, and thank you. Did you do all your tests on ATM in Russia, or have you also tried to do it in other countries?
The ATM machines that we assessed are pretty much the same as anywhere else in the world. We managed to access the software that was used by different banks in different European countries. In particular, they all have different issues.
Okay, because I saw some, it was not cheap cards, just magnetic.
I don't understand the question, sorry.
Oh yeah, magnetic strips, sorry. No.
Any other questions?
Hello, thanks for the talk. Did you actually talk about that to the banks and to people responsible for ATMs? Show us in real life, not in laboratory?
Yes, we showed them during our work at our employer, and actually at start they were quite skeptical. You can do anything with your ATMs. After our work, they say, we should change everything in our approach for the ATM machines. So
Hello, thanks for the talk. You didn't notice any effective mutual authentication between a card reader and the ATM or between ATM and processing center. So
can you repeat the sort of the question?
I'm talking about mutual authentication between the different components, such card reader, processing center, and the ATM himself.
Yes, we've seen some vendors implement the mutual authentication, but unfortunately, cryptography is much more complex than they think. And even if they have authentication, in many cases, such authentication can be bypassed.
So bad implementation. So.
Yes. Thank you for your attention. Bye.
No. Thank you to you both.